And when you're next to me, something I can feel so real. You shining bright, so bright, so bright. Shining light, burning bright, so bright. Listen, baby, I gotta get next to you, yeah. I gotta get next to you, yeah. Like an angel in the night, you came and rescued me, kissed me, set me free from the darkness. Angel in the night time, came to me, set me free, kissed me from that misery. Yeah. And when you're next to me, something I can feel so real. You shining light, burning bright, so bright. Shining light, burning bright, so bright.
Shalom Mishka, and welcome to Hebrew Bible Secrets with your host, Rabbi Jeremy Beaton, Chief Rabbi. We are reading today from the book of Romans, starting at chapter 13. But first I just want to show you the books we're reading from today. So the first book we're reading from is The Hidden Truths, Hebraic Study Scriptures, New Testament, New Covenant. And also for references, The Hidden Truths, Hebraic Scrolls, Tanakh with commentary. So both of these books have been transliterated by Rabbi Simon Althoff, HaKohen, from the Hebrew back to the English with extensive footnotes, and also If you want to learn more about the Torah and how to keep the Sabbath and the Holy Feasts, you should get the Forever-Israel Siddur Daily Living Prayers, also transliterated from the Hebrew to the English by Rabbi Salman Alta. Okay, so without further ado, Romans chapter 13, verse 1. 1. Let every man be subordinate to the governing authorities of the temple, for there is no authority but that of Elohim. The governing authorities are established by Elohim. 2. Whosoever therefore resists the ruling authority withstands the institution of Elohim, which is the temple and the Kohanim. They that resist these shall receive judgment to themselves. 3. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Will you then not be afraid of the ruling authority? Do that which is good, and you shall have praise of the same. 4. For he is the attendant of Elohim to you for good. But if you do that which is evil, be afraid, for he bears not the sword in vain. For he is the servant of Elohim, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that does evil. 5. Therefore it is necessary to be in subordination to the temple authorities, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. 6. For this cause you pay temple tax also, for they are Elohim's servants, attending continually upon this very thing. 7. Render therefore to all the Jews temple tax, to whom temple tax is due, custom, to whom custom, fear, to whom fear, respect, to whom respect. 8. Owe no man anything, but to love one another, for he that loves another has fulfilled the Torah. 9. For this you shall not commit adultery, you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, thou shalt not bear false witness, and if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbour as yourself. 10. Benevolence works no ill to his neighbour, therefore be blessed in the fulfilling of the Torah. 11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our rescue nearer than when we believed. 12. The night is far spent, the day is near. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armour of light. 13. Let us walk honestly, as in the day, not in rioting and being intoxicated, not in whoring and sensuality, not in fighting and envy. 14. But put on Master Yahushua the Messiah, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust there. Okay, so that now brings us to the end of Romans chapter 13. So let's go back and have a look at some of the footnotes in Romans chapter 13. Okay, so the first footnote we have is in verse 1. Let every man be subordinate. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So Paulus defines here the four roles of people in authority in the synagogues, which were related to the functioning of the temple. Okay, let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. To the governing authorities of the temple, for there is no authority but that of Elohim. The governing authorities. Okay, let's have a look at this, the governing authorities. So see our footnote, Genesis 49 and 10, in the Hidden Truth Torah. Okay, let's have a look at this, because this bit's quite important. Genesis 49. In fact, I've got it up on the screen, so I'll just bring it up quickly. Give me one sec. Okay, Genesis 49, and we want 8 to 10. So 49:8 is, Yehuda, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. 9. Yehuda is a young eagle from the prey. My son, you have gone up. He bows down. He stooped down as an eagle, and as a lion, who shall rouse him? 10. The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, to witness Shiloh, and he comes to receive homage from the people. Okay, so that's Genesis 49, 8 to 10. So we've got a few footnotes here. So the first footnote we have is in verse 8. So Yehuda, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. So let's have a look at this. Bow down before you. So the 10 tribes, namely many Christian nations, will one day go up to Israel and bow down their heads to Judah. The Christian world at that time will accept the decrees made by the Rabbim. So bowing down means accepting and submitting to the Rabbim and the decrees they have established. Since Yahweh made Judah the lawgiver, Judah is not going to hell, as many have been teaching in the churches. This has nothing to do with a dual covenant, but the one covenant renewed by Yahweh with both Judah and the 10 tribes. Judah is first, and Ephraim is second in line. The 10 tribes do not have exclusivity on the covenant. If we read Nahum 1:15, a future prophecy where Judah is commanded to keep the appointed feasts, meaning they never departed from the Torah, so cannot be cast into hell as many think. The Torah is from Emhokmah, represents the Father's voice. He did not fulfill the prophecies the Messiah should have done. He cannot be accepted as the Messiah. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 9. Yehuda is a young eagle from the prey. My son, you have gone up. He bows down. He stooped. Okay, so let's have a look at this. He stooped. The word rabat in the ancient pictographic Hebrew belongs to a bird. The word Ari means an eagle and not applicable to a lion in the first instance. The ancient word for lion is libia. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 10. The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver. Okay, so Judah is the lawgiver, and when the Messiah comes, Judah will keep the scepter, but the people of the tribe of Judah will then be in submission to Messiah. Since King David will also be resurrected, then he will either be the Messiah himself or in co-regent. One candidate for Messiah is Daniel, the prophet, or one in likeness of. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. From between his feet to witness Shiloh. So let's have a look at this. So the prophecy of the coming of King Messiah, Yahushua, and that the Messiah was to come from Yehuda. All the Hebrew Targum places this prophecy for the Messiah. The Hebrew word Shevet is here translated scepter, and can also be translated branch, rod, or tribe. The ancient word for ad is to witness. At the higher level, they apply to the ultimate rule of King Messiah. So you can find this in Yeshayahu 11:1 and to fill in Psalms 23:4. Okay, so Isaiah 11:1 and Psalms 23:4. At the Remez, this shows that Yehuda will hold a distinct position in the 12 tribes and will not disappear as an identifiable entity, and will appoint and rule until the king comes. Since the 10 tribes were rebellious, as are many Christians today, towards the Torah, it also shows that Yehuda will remain closely aligned with Torah and will be, so to speak, legally in charge of how things are conducted. Next time you cry legalistic, be careful. It is inbuilt in this prophecy by Yahweh. The word for lawgiver, machachok, can easily be applied to this tribe in the Peshat understanding. And we see Yehuda was to come back to the land of Israel first, and they did in small numbers only, while the 10 tribes are still out there. The Ashkenazi are not true children of Israel, but converts. The 10 will return with teshuvah, repentance, towards the Torah of Yahweh at the appointed time. To fill in, Psalms 78:67 confirms this view. Moreover, he refused the tent of Joseph and chose not the tribe of Ephraim, the 10 tribes, but chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Sion, which he loved. So did the Messiah fulfill the role of Shiloh the first time? The answer is no. Shiloh means to have peace and tranquility. But the Messiah, Yahushua's first mission, was to ratify the new covenant that Israel broke at Mount Sinai, and to bring redemption to the scattered tribes. So Shiloh, the king, who will rule, gather Israel, and reign with peace, has not yet happened, and is still yet future, since the majority of the Israelites of Yehuda are still out there, or out of the land. So when Yahshua returns, he will indeed return as the ruling king. So Midrash Rabbah, Genesis 98:8. Until Shiloh comes, this refers to King Messiah, and the obedience of the people be his. He will come and blunt the teeth of the peoples of the world. Midrash Rabbah, Genesis 99:7. Until Shiloh comes, one to whom the reign belongs, and the obedience of the people be his. He around whom the nations gather, as it is stated, the root of Yeshai, that stands for a banner of the peoples. To it shall the nations seek. So Yeshayahu, Isaiah 11:10. Okay, so that was Genesis 49:10. So we started at 8 and then we went to 10. So let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. Are established by Elohim. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Are established. The set apart one only established the temple, or more correctly, arranged for it to be there. Okay, let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. By Elohim. Okay, let's have a look at this. Paulus has been discussing Hebrew Israel in the last 3 chapters, and so here he does the same for non-Hebrew Israel, the 10 tribes and other nations grafted into Israel, explaining how they fit into the Hebrew worldview. The powers that Paulus speaks of here are not of the local Roman government, which is an erroneous view held by Christendom generally, but the powers of the synagogue that were allied to the power of the temple. The temple was in place as the authority of Yahweh, and early believers all went there and even prayed and celebrated the feasts in the temple together. They even sacrificed offerings there. It is hard for people to understand this model today, but let's take a look at both examples by looking at the Islamic faith and the Catholic faith. All mosques align with Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and all Catholic churches align with the Vatican in Rome. This is how they celebrate their feasts, such as Christmas and Eid. Going by this model, this means Saudi Arabia is the place of authority for Muslims, while for Catholics, the Pope's authority issues out of the Vatican in Italy. If another person claimed to be the Pope issues authority out of another country, then that would be rejected. The same applies to Islam. Once we understand this, then we can move forward. Therefore, the only authority structure that was appointed by Yahweh in Jerusalem was the Temple Institute and all the synagogues where early Nazarenes met. These were indeed kosher to go to for worship and praise, which did indeed happen with the early believers. The Hebrew people are our brothers and remain so. Nothing has changed except that there is no temple system in Jerusalem right now. It is highly suspect for us to believe that the high authority appointed by Yahweh are Rome and people like Nero, who slaughtered Christians and skinned them alive. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 2. Whosoever therefore resists the ruling authority. Okay, let's have a look at this. So, exactly as stated, the rulers are meant to punish evil through Torah set by Yahweh. Read that again. So, exactly as stated, the rulers are meant to punish evil through Torah set by Yahweh. You are subject to the authority, to the rulers in case you have committed a crime. And then you are to take the punishment for evil. Kepha, Peter, says the same thing in 1 Peter 2:13-14. Which rulers? The local rabbinic courts, not Gentile law courts. Sorry, the Gentiles just do not cut it in Yahweh's economy, unless they are part of Israel, in which case they are no longer Gentile, but Hebrew or Abrahamic. Though they are good Gentile people, but their court system was and is not set up to give Torah law or Torah justice. Rulers act through local established way of dealing with problems in the synagogue community. They have nothing to do with outside national government. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation, which stands the institution of Elohim, which is the temple and Kohanim. So let's have a look at this. So since Judah remains the lawgiver, the place of enacting law is in the synagogue and the temple. See our footnotes in Genesis 49:8 and 10, which I've already read. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 3. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Will you then be afraid of ruling authority? Okay, let's have a look at this. So even though the temple authorities were not always right, but still they used Torah where applicable to enact judgments, and were not wrong to do so, as Yahweh put them there as his lawgiver. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 4. For he is the attendant Let's have a look at this. So this would be the position of deacon to take care of local synagogue matters. Okay. So the attendant would be taking care of local synagogue matters. Okay, let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. Of Elohim, to you for good. But if you do that which is evil, be afraid, for he bears not the sword in vain. For he is the servant of Elohim, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that does evil. Okay, let's have a look at this. So we have here, the sword is the drash allegory for the authority that was bestowed on the temple priests, and as such they are under Yahweh and enact judgments as per Torah. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 5. Therefore it is necessary to be in subordination to the temple authorities, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. So let's have a look at this. So authorities here are the temple authorities and the Hebrew leadership in place in the first century Israel. Even Yahushua submitted to them. Okay, let's read that again. So authorities here are the temple authorities and the Hebrew leadership in place in the first century Israel. Even Yahushua submitted to them. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 6. For this cause you pay temple tax also, for they are Elohim's servants. Okay, let's have a look at this. So the Roman soldiers were not ministers of Yahweh, but the Hebrew priests were. So we can see how dramatically many people have fallen into error applying this to the common local government, when it has nothing to do with our local governments that allow sin to prevail in our society. And we have open murder of babies by abortions justified in national law courts. The function of these servants of Yahweh was to collect taxes, the 2 drachmas for the temple, and make sure this money was given to the temple authorities. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 7. Render therefore to all the Jews temple tax, to whom temple tax. So let's have a look at this, temple tax. So many Gentiles had a hard time doing this in the old times, when the annual temple tax and tithes were meant to be sent there. Even today, people argue over these issues, not understanding that Yahweh has order and government. The historian Josephus and Tacitus attest to the fact that the Gentile converts to Judaism would renounce their old evil religions and send tax and tithes to the temple in Jerusalem. Today, tithes really should go to Torah-based teachers who teach Torah and Messiah, and not to corrupt government or church officials that do not teach the faith of the apostles and disciple of Yahushua. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. So custom, to whom custom. Fear, to whom fear. Respect, to whom respect. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Respect, to whom respect. So here Paulus lists the 4 offices that he has been speaking about in reverse order. Okay, so we have A, tax collectors, B, attendants, taking care of local business like baptisms, births, deaths, etc. C, rulers, such as the superintendent of the synagogue duties within a synagogue. D, various rabbin and rabbinic authority. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 8. Owe no man anything, but to love one another, For he that loves another has fulfilled the Torah. Okay, let's have a look at this. So to love one another in Torah definition meant loosening up your pockets and pay your tithes and support the work of the synagogues and the temple. It was not emotional love, but one of deeds and actions as per Torah. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote. It's in verse 9. For this you shall not commit adultery, you shall not kill, you shall not steal. Okay, let's have a look at this. You shall not steal. So, missing in manuscripts, you shall not bear false witness. Okay. Let's go to the next footnote, which is a continuation. You shall not covet, you shall not bear false witness, and if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Love your neighbor as yourself. So this should be interesting that Paulus repeats the 10 Commandments because he is talking about the Temple Institute and not men-made places. Okay, let's read that again. This should be interesting that Paulus repeats the 10 Commandments because he is talking about the Temple Institute and not men or man-made places. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 12. The night is fast spent, the day is near. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armour of light. Okay, let's have a look at this. You can only differentiate between darkness and light using the Torah of Moses, and if you did not, then you can only come up with airy-fairy descriptions, as many in Christendom do today. Okay, so that now brings us to the end of Romans chapter 13. So I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you on the other side. This is Rabbi Jeremy Beaton, Chief Rabbi, saying thank you for watching, and Shalom Shalom. Baruch Shem Kivod Malkuto Leolam Va'ed. Benevolent be the name of his esteemed kingdom, forever and ever and ever. Amen.